reporting. How can we use some of the Power BI tools and some of the underlying no-code, low-code solutions that are in the system to generate good-looking reports, interactive views, some KPI-type metrics, without having to be a developer or a super smart techie type person, i.e. someone like me. So why is online reporting important? Why would we care? Well, first of all, we are not living in 1983, which is sort of my point of reference when DOS came out and the first PC was invented. And we got so excited that you could run a report and it may run for an hour and it would tell you what had happened last week or last month, or even better, yesterday, because, you know, sometimes we started updating stuff and posting stuff on a daily basis instead of a weekly basis. So we need online reporting for assessment. We want to be able to interact with our data in such a way that it tells us what the exceptions are versus, you know, here's 400 pages of report. You go find the item master that's wackadoodle inside of this. And the other benefit around online reporting is this notion that reporting is not a rear view mirror activity exclusively. And clearly, when you do month-end reports, yes, it is. But how can we use the data inside our ERP systems, which is predominantly forward-looking? I mean, we're not particularly concerned about customer orders we shipped last month or the month before. We are concerned as a business about the customer orders that we need to ship and the purchase orders we need to receive and the products we need to manufacture. So how can we use some of the reporting inside the system that is online, interactive, and a little more intuitive to be able to do some of this assessment and exception management? If we look at what I'm saying, I'm talking about insights into the business. What are the insights that we can gain using a Power BI entity store to drive some of our answers and respond to some of the questions we have about our business? So Microsoft, about two and a half years ago, started delivering some built-in options where their developers have gone out and said, you know, if I was a cost accountant or if I was a manufacturing production person concerned about variances, what would I want to see? So they started developing these built-in options, and over time, this has the number of templates and formats has slowly increased and become more and more expansive across the system. You do need to have Power BI installed. You can decide if you want this to be online reporting or on a more time-phased, i.e., you know, give me data as of last night. Depending on your environment, depending on your setup, depending on who's using it, you may have some of those entities that are going to be a little more interactive than others. The plan was to deliver to customers some out-of-the-box reporting that this was not going to have to be a development-enabled functionality, which makes all the developers go sob. But as Microsoft are moving towards this low-code, no-code environment, they kind of had to put their money where their mouth is and say, you know what, this is what we're talking about. We can filter a lot of these reports. We can streamline the inputs, the outputs, the outcomes, so they become interactive. They're not just what you see is what you get. And then you can link to external data sources so that you could expand the out-of-the-box reports to include additional reports or insights or databases that have an Excel hookup sitting outside of your system. So what data is available for these entity stores? If we look at some of them, they typically have the word analysis in them. They're all sitting inside of system admin setup entity store. And the data that's currently available is what's in this list: assets, budgets, cash, inventory KPIs. Distributed order management is a retail function that those of us in the supply chain world are starting to grapple and bring that into a more standardized SCM environment, because a lot of businesses have multiple warehouses and they want to be able to do strategic planning of customer orders. So if a customer order comes in through your e-commerce site, which warehouse is that order going to go from? And have the system do that determination. So if a customer orders an item that's slow moving, for instance, let's ship it from the warehouse that has the oldest inventory. Or a customer orders something from zip code 52450, what is the closest warehouse to that zip code? So that's this distributed order management. GL projects, and then we have some cubes that Microsoft have available to us. Setups, you can define a recurring batch, and that's this, I want to have a look at it as of last night. Or you can select the time and frequency of your entity updates. From a performance point of view, not everybody wants to do this all the time online. Typically, the financial people say, but I'm important. So the financial guys are getting their data updated more often. But it's all customizable to your particular situation, needs, requirements, and budget. There are some references here around security that I would invite you to go and have a look at. And you will be getting a copy of this PowerPoint, so you could go and have a look at all the meat and potatoes that sit behind this. So we're very used to an operational workspace inside of D365 where you can configure a splash screen. So when you log on to D365, this is what I see. This is my life. These are the things that I am concerned about. These are the things that I want to track. And that's a combination of your traditional workspace tools like lists and tiles. And if you haven't played with workspaces yet in D365, please do. And if you have upgraded to 10.0.18, the version that came out beginning of this month, middle of February maybe, the functionality around totals on screens, workspace additions, and freezing a column on a screen like you can in Excel, that has grossly expanded. So if you haven't, if you're not on D365 and or you haven't upgraded, go and have a look at that, because these workspaces are becoming more and more functional, as is our use of a list page. So workspaces, we know them, we love them. But they're functional, right? They're very much task-oriented. The Power BI workspaces that I'm talking about are a little more graphical. Maybe they're a lot more graphical. They're much more customizable with data that is not inside of the system. These reports become interactive, and we can seamlessly integrate them into this workspace. And the human brain is wired to respond to infographics and visuals. And so this becomes a more pleasing work experience for a lot of people. You can click or touch the visuals on the page. They are tablet enabled, phone enabled, as well as traditional desktop enabled. And then we can see cause and effect, do some simple what-if operations without actually leaving this workspace. And what we're finding is people start having a little fun with the system, which is not something you hear very often when you talk about an ERP solution. ERP solutions and fun are very seldom used in the same sentence. So where are some of these dashboards right now? Pretty much anything that has this funky little arrow is going to be Power BI enabled. Just about every release, every 2 releases, we're seeing an addition or an expansion to these workspaces and splash screens. And so I'm going to just run us through a few of these so we can have a look at them, and we can get a feel for how do they work. So this system, just a little disclaimer here, the system here says Le Creuset. Le Creuset are a customer of ours. The data I'm showing you is not Le Creuset's data. I realized a few minutes before I started this presentation that we still had a customer logo embedded in from a previous demo, and my tech team don't trust me enough to go and do any of that technical behind the scenes swap out the logo, because they're smart and they know I am not particularly good at anything technical. So here's my cache overview that I want to go and have a look at. The system is going to load up, depending on your platform, really fast. And so what I'm doing is I am looking at what is my total cash situation going out across the company. So here it is based on the companies that I have. Here's the table of the pie chart. So who has what money or doesn't have money? What is my cash flow forecast based on what is currently set up in the system in terms of inflows and outflows? And then my forecasted currency balances, looking at 4 different currencies here: Canadian dollar, the euro, British pounds, and the US dollar. Down at the bottom, I have some more tabs, and this is where we're seeing Microsoft adding more and more functionality as they're expanding these tabs. And so this is where I can get report quality information that you could take this and use it as part of a financial set of reports without having to go and actually code any of this stuff. Just want to get that out of the way. And then over here on the right-hand side, I have my filters. So I can be filtering this for a specific day, a specific month. I could filter it for a specific company or a specific bank account. So within this out-of-the-box standard functionality, I have these filter options, and depending on the reports, the filters will change. If we go take a more detailed look at the currency forecast, again, it's looking at my transactions in the system and saying, you know, this is what your net impact is being. And I think my bank balances is just a little more detail on this chart, blowing it down a little more, and then giving me some subtotals in different currencies. And again, you'll see that my filters have changed based on the content of this screen. So the cash overview gives me just a really nice little feel for a whole lot of very, very important information inside of the company. For those of us that love our production, which is my happy space, the data here is not terribly exciting. I do apologize. But this looks a little more like a traditional workspace, but I have my embedded controls here, giving me some of the KPI information. and then comparing this month, last month as some additional inventory insights, looking at inventory value over time, and this demo database is set to like 2018. So currently, you know, I'm just not using a whole lot of inventory here. But what it would show me is my beginning plus what I purchased, what I used, what I disposed of, my consumed materials into production, what I transferred in or out, what I sold out, and then what my ending balance is. And it does the same for work in progress. And this is the one that production people start getting a whole lot more excited about. I have a date range up here, so I can be looking at this for a specific date or a specific interval of time period. So lots of different ways of looking at this information and doing some analysis and some interrogation of the data. My inventory accounting analysis is giving me some analysis of my turnovers. And again, not the sexiest of data right now, but as I move over this chart, I'm getting this feedback in terms of how was my turnover happening for the various periods, what was my inventory net change, and then my inventory accuracy. And this is driving off of those KPI fields that we set up inside of D365. My manufacturing accounting analysis, I'm looking at my work in progress ending balances. This is going year by year. I could look at it by period, my turnover rates, etc. And then I have a nice out-of-the-box view of standard cost variance analysis. So for those of you that love standard cost, and I do, you'll see a couple of things here. You'll see the system out of the box for the BI stuff is starting to use item group as a key driver for the out-of-the-box reports. So all the new implementations that we're working on, we're really stressing to prospects and new customers, make sure that your item group is what you want it to be, because it's going to drive a lot of these out-of-the-box reports. Here, I'm looking at purchase orders, and it's giving me my top 10 purchase orders where my standard cost versus my purchase price are out of whack. So a nice go and look at these kind of report. My purchase price variance ratio. So overall, my variance from from standard to purchase price is only 1.77%. So this is one of those little KPIs that's giving us a nice indicator that we're 271,000 over standard, but how much are we buying? 15.28 million. This graph is taking this pie chart here, so the blue and the yellow, and it's looking at by quarter. So I can see by my item groups, which item groups are running less true to standard. So those of you that have been in the steel industry or anything that uses wood, we've all been struggling to keep up to date with those almost inflationary cost increases on those raw materials. And so this diagram would really help drive that information and alert people as to things that are going out of whack. And then if I'm running multiple sites, it's going to break it down for me by site, because maybe I have one site where the PPV just runs hot compared to another site. And why would that be? Is it the people? Is it the process? Is it the procedure? Is it the vendors? So another way of looking at purchase price variance by using the information we have to hand, those of us that are production people, yay, us production people, this is the exact same screen here, but looking at it for production orders. So today, my production people are just the spiffiest people in the world. I have no variances here. and it would give it to me by quarter. And here I start seeing what are those production price variances? Why am I getting a production variance? Is it the lot size? In other words, the optimal planned production quantity for this item is 100, but I went and made 10, so I've had to absorb all those extra setup costs. Is it a price of inbound materials? Is it a quantity issue that I should have made 10? I made 14, but I scrapped 3. Did I have to substitute parts that my low cost part wasn't available? I had to use a higher cost part. Or is it a methods variance that it should have taken me 2 hours, but it took me 3 hours, or it should have taken me 4 hours and it took me 1 hour, and that's a positive variance, right? So these are some of the, out of the box, I didn't have to write a single line of code. Let me just emphasize that again, because nobody ever wants me to write any code anytime. I didn't have to do anything. I just, IT person, God bless him, our friend Nate, said to him, I need Power BI enabled on this box, and he did whatever the heck it is he had to do to enable it. And he said, is it working? And I came to the screens and I said, yes, thank you, it's working. The last batch I want to show you is the financial analysis. And it's warming it up. It's bringing down the data for me. And this is giving me a financial review of my company as I am sitting right now. I want to see if I can flip this date. I'm not going to flip the date. So I can look at my revenue, and this is revenue by company. This is my little mini skinny trial balance here for 2021. My expenses, my projected cash flow capital. Looking at some of our, current ratio, your assets versus liabilities. What's my current working capital, my GM, and then look at all these tabs I have down at the bottom here that really allow me to dig into some of the things around expenses. Expenses by region. What's happening with my different divisions inside of the company? Where are the expenses happening? What is my revenue over my expenses? So in this month, my expenses exceeded my revenue. I have some sub-ledger insights, top 10 products by revenue, again, running off of the item group. So it's picking up those item groups, and this is what it's projecting out for me, and then cross-comparing that to the sales categories. Who are my top 10 customers? What does my aging look like? I had a conversation this morning. Someone was saying, why do we care about aging? And I'm like, well, there's this thing called gap, and getting our money from our customers. So here I have this real nice little bright blue chunk telling me I have 232K of accounts receivable. There are 5 customers that are delinquent, and they're running 180 days and over. Balances by my bank account, and then what do my purchases look like? How much are we buying? The trial balance, a lot of people get excited by this because it's almost, board quality. This is my standard trial balance. Here's a snapshot balance sheet, and I have these little buttons up here. There's this little upside down tree that it says expand all down one level. So if I click that, it'll start jumping this out one more level. And so I can drill down, or I can hit my little up button and drill up or consolidate up. So I can go up and down inside of these reports and drill down to my lowest levels. Looking at data by region, and this one I always get excited about. because I've got actuals versus budgets. And again, I don't have a budget here right now, but I can keep drilling down. Income statement with variances. Similar view, except looking at my actuals as a percentage of revenue and my budget as a percentage of revenue. So I'm getting a slightly different view on my business. And then this is my 12-month trend that I can blow out by quarters and really get a different way of looking at my business. These are out of the box reports. If I've said that once, I've said it a million times. It really gives me a good way of being able to analyze information at a deep level as well as a high level without having to code. I can add to this. I can modify it if I want to. I can bring in some Excel data from somewhere else if I have that, but I don't have to be a developer and I don't have to look at big chunky data. So this kind of online reporting, expect to see more of it coming out of D365. I've just shown you some of them. There are more out there. There's more out there on costing. And they're really trying to give us information in some parts of the system where that information has been either hard to get or just kind of yucky. So we're certainly very excited about this. It is putting a lot of power back in the hands of the people who need the information and who want to modify it, change it, swing it around, interrogate it, filter it, and look at it in different ways and with different eyes to be able to get a story out of our data instead of just reams and reams or pages and pages of an Excel spreadsheet.